What's
Yeah.
up, Josh?
What's up, Travis? How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Good.
So, welcome to the Generalist Father podcast. I'm happy to have you on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is my friend Josh, folks. We've known each other for about 12, 13, 14 years, somewhere in there. Probably met in like 2008 or 9, I would guess. What do you
Sounds
think?
about
Do you
right.
remember? Somewhere in
Yeah.
the beginning of when we were in Providence. So that was like 07, 08, 09.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
think I moved back to the Rhode Island area in 07, 08, somewhere in there.
And where were you before that? Or where were you out? Where were you out when I first moved there?
Yeah, I was in let's see, right before that I was in Costa Rica. I was an outdoor guide there. For Outward Bound. I don't know if you're familiar with
I knew
that
you were doing
company.
that, but I don't know
Yeah.
too much about it.
Yeah.
Is that
So
when you met? Is that when you met your wife, or did you go back a couple years later and meet your wife?
that is when I met my wife. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
that early?
yep.
So that was what year then?
Well, you're testing me there, but probably 06.
When did
I
you get
think
married?
06. Oh my gosh, what are you doing to me?
You're supposed to know that.
It was 2013. So we
Okay.
dated for a little while. Probably 08. No, so we dated for like 2 years prior, somewhere in there.
Okay, so your math doesn't work, but we'll
Yeah,
figure it out. We'll figure it out at some point.
She's gonna get me for that one. Yeah.
But yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're married, and what else? You got some kids?
Yeah, married, 2 kids, 2 boys. Remy or Remington is 6.5 now, and Teddy is 2.5.
Okay,
Yep.
awesome. And
Yeah, Remy
so,
just started kindergarten, and Teddy's just crazy, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, how you're approaching like 10 years married? Then sounds like
Yes, coming on 10 years actually this fall. I know that.
in the fall. Nice.
Yeah.
So, you got any bigger plans for that milestone of 10 years?
We've talked about so many things going somewhere,
Yeah,
but
you better get on that, homeboy.
yeah.
So we did Spain on our 15 year. It was our first
Okay.
time doing something big, and it was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
It was like the best thing we've ever done for our marriage.
We're blowing the budget actually, so we're coming out your way in like a week. So we're going to Zion and Grand Canyon and a bunch of places.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So tell everybody where you're at, where you live, and everything.
Oh sure. Yeah. So I'm in Westerly, Rhode Island, not Long Island, Rhode Island, it's a little state. We're on the Connecticut border, little beach town.
And what are some of the things you like to do out there? What are things people do in Westerly, Rhode Island?
Well, being a beach town, we surf. I surf. I grew up surfing, going to the beach all the time with the family.
How do you guys surf with no waves?
Yeah, it's a good question.
So how does it
work?
Storms,
lots of storms. Yeah.
You just chase storms?
Really thick wetsuits. It's there's never good waves during the summer, so you have to be able to surf through the year. And as much as I hate getting into a really cold wetsuit, I got to do it.
So when was the last time you surfed lately?
It's actually been probably a couple of weeks now. Been busy, and like just time doesn't always line up when there are waves, so that's sometimes frustrating. But
so you'll go out when it's like 20 degrees, 30 degrees even?
Yeah, 20 degrees is tough, but yeah, 30, and you always hope for a sunny day. But
and the water's like 40.
Water's that's probably mid 40s. Yeah. It can, it'll get lower than that, but yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep.
The East Coast surfers, man.
Yeah.
So oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I remember one of your last interviews of that surfer guy. I forget, I don't know his name, but
Kyle.
Yeah, and just commenting he finally taught you. He was one of the ones that finally taught you how to surf.
Yeah, he was a real Christian.
Yeah, yes, exactly. I
Because
remember that moment,
I was
and I
around
said, you
you,
know what?
I was around you and
We,
your brother for 5.5 years and never took me surfing.
yeah, no,
Not
it was
like
a,
not like I was asking to in Rhode Island, because I was making fun of it the whole time. I was like, how do you guys surf with no waves?
yeah.
But
We do get waves. We do get waves, but
yeah.
not very often.
So how do you relate to this concept of generalist father? Do you find
Uh,
do you find that that's
I
somewhat
mean,
do you relate to it?
I do. Yeah. I mean, when I heard of this concept and this whole thing, I was like, "Oh, this sounds kind of like me." And then I, listened to a couple interviews, and I was like, "Yeah, that it relates." I mean, I've always wanted to, or like, enjoy different activities, learning different stuff. Like, I don't think. I mean, I will say no to things for sure. There's certain things I hate, like lemon cake and lemon on stuff, but but no, like, just so recently I started picking up disc golf. I don't know if you've ever
Oh
indulged,
yeah.
but
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah. So a guy from the store, from our shop, was really into it, and we started selling discs through the shop, and I really got into it, and that's another outdoor outlet, super fun.
Yeah.
It has all the benefits of regular golf, but it only takes like hour, 2 hours to do it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
And
fun.
way less frustrating
Yeah, it can be.
if you're decent
So,
at throwing a frisbee.
right.
But yeah. Well, cool. So, we talked a little bit, and you definitely got the fatherhood thing going. We got faith that we'll talk about. You run your own business. We're gonna get into that. You do a lot with the outdoors. The only category you said you're not so into is arts, and it's not because you don't want to. It's that lack of time because of all the other things you're doing. And you mentioned woodworking, and you have a shop in your house, and that's I mean, I would see you like your brother. I'm really good friends with your brother, obviously, and um I feel like you guys are definitely got a craftsman sort of mind and hands for
Yeah,
that kind of work. So maybe in the future you get to step into a little more of your artsy self.
yeah.
That'd
We'll
be cool.
see. Time will
Yeah.
tell.
So yeah. So after like a lot of work or a stressful week, um maybe even right now you're coming out of winter, you're not quite out of winter yet, and the business you do that we'll get into is not quite booming yet until spring and summer. What do you need to do when you're stressed, or what recharges you?
Yeah. So I mean, I think so. I was thinking through those activities and things that I need to do, and one, the big things that growing up playing soccer, doing sports, all that kind of stuff is playing. I still play. There's a pickup league that I've actually used to play in. I mean, that was
Yeah,
15 years ago, right?
those are our footy on the
Um,
pitch
yeah,
on
some footy
Wednesday
on the
nights.
pitch. Yeah. But that's like I always think of these activities as things that my brain just can turn off, and I'm just in the moment, and I'm not thinking of anything else, not thinking about the family, not thinking about the business, not thinking about how tired I am. Doesn't matter. Like, I can
Yeah.
the brain switches off, and I'm just focused on that. And then hour and a half later, it's like it all comes rushing back, but at least you have that little reprieve, I guess.
Well, now you got all this sweat and dopamine going through your body, which feels a lot better. Like
Oh yeah.
it really does. Like I remember the thing about me is I hate running. I like really don't like running. I mean, I've gotten more into it now than ever. Like I'll jog and not cry about it. I'll jog like a mile or two. But I used to just despise it. But when we would play soccer, we'd be running for like 2 hours, and then the guys shutting the place down. We're wishing it could go on like another hour. It was so much
Oh yeah.
fun. Like you
Right.
run so hard too. It's like running wind sprints, but you're having fun and you're
Right.
so sweaty and so getting such a good workout, but it feels like you're just playing. It's
Right.
what is amazing about soccer, especially. I don't know. I don't know too many sports that are that much running that is so fun,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I was saying earlier that I started picking up racquetball again with a buddy of mine. And that's another thing, like just go out there. It's a lot. I mean, I think it's actually more taxing than soccer, to be honest. It's like you're just like bouncing off the walls and whatever. But I'd never played tennis or anything like that. So I was never actually good at these sports. But it's just another thing that my brain just turns off, and like I'm just super focused on this whatever the activity, and
Yeah.
having fun with my buddy. So
If you really want to man up, then you have to get rid of the racket and start playing handball, which my dad does. My dad's
really
76 or 75, and he's playing handball still twice a week for like 2 or 3
nice.
hours. I'm like, Dad, that's pretty badass. You like
That is.
it's
It is.
amazing. I mean, it's a
That's
rugged
awesome.
sport. Your hand has to like build up calluses because the ball, it's like a racket ball without being hollow almost. It's like it's almost
Sure.
solid the way it feels on your hand.
Yeah.
It hurts. I used to play when I was a kid. He would teach me, and my hand had to get tougher because at first it was unbearable. But
Is
yeah,
it like in a racquetball court, or
yeah,
I've
it's the same
never?
thing
Yeah.
without a racket. Yeah, you're literally
Okay.
just hitting with your hand.
Well, we'll have to try that next week.
Yeah, Masons could definitely handle it because you guys are built of steel. So so yeah, so you'd say sports. Anything else you'd say is like ways that you decompress or recharge?
Yeah, I mean, getting out in the woods. I mountain bike pretty regularly. When I used to fly fish all the time, and again, it comes down to timing, and I think sometimes it's frustrating in certain areas where like I haven't fished in a while, so like to relearn it, uh, and kind of do it well, I guess, to actually catch fish. That's when you go out and fish and you get skunked, and it's like you don't know why, and you can't figure out if it's the fly, if it's the fish, if it's the weather, if it's the whatever.
Yeah,
Um, then it gets frustrating, and you don't want to do these activities when you get frustrated doing it.
yeah.
So yeah,
Especially when you're a Mason and you guys do all things well. So
try
you don't really do too well with getting skunked.
yeah, try to. Anyways, that's another thing with surfing too. Like when you're out of it for a certain amount of time, like you go out and it's too big for when you haven't surfed in a while and you're out of shape and can't get into stuff, can't get into waves, and it's like, why am I out here right now? I just need to go home.
Yeah.
You know.
For me though, I still knew why I was out there, even though I couldn't surf. It was because afterwards I get to see I went surfing.
Yeah, but
So
it's, I don't know.
that was a huge why for me.
Yeah, I don't know.
So what do you what about your friends? Like what do you like to do with friends? And then what do you like to do with family and like your family, like say wife and kids?
Sure.
What are things you like to do in those two contexts? Like think of like epic, like what's a great time you'd like to
Yeah.
have with friends and then also with family?
Yeah. Um, that's a very interesting. I think with the family, that's tough because
Do
the
you guys
two boys
bike
are
as a
very
family?
well. Yeah, we do. We do.
Yeah.
Like I've got. So Remy's finally on he's on a 20-inch bike, like can properly, manage some trails and stuff like that. And I've got Teddy, who's 2.5 again. I have there's like a seat in front of me,
Mhm.
on the bike, and so he's kind of learning as we go. But um, we get to go out as a family, so we're on trails that are mellow enough for Remy, and then
Mhm.
I can still pedal around with a 40 pound screaming child in front of me.
um
No,
is
not
that
all
what
the
you would have
time.
said, or what would
He
you like
loves
to
it.
do with family?
Say that again.
Would you have picked biking, or because I kind of cut you off? What would you like to do with family as like a
I
great
would, yeah.
great
I mean
time?
that when weather permits, like um, going out with the family, we've got a trail system like 5 minutes down the road. So to pack up and just go out and do that for hour and a half, 2 hours, like it's awesome. Um,
That's pretty rad.
right now, like we have been doing a little bit more like more hiking. There's a little, little preserves and stuff like that around the area. So we'll go out and do some hikes.
Do you ever go to that Fisher Brook? Is that what it's called?
The what?
Fisher Brook or Fisherville? Fisher Brook. I think it's called that. It's like kind of on the way down your way, like halfway from Providence down. And it was really,
Okay.
really, really, really pretty. I think it's called
Yeah.
Fisherville or Fisher Brook. It's like an Audubon little preserve with a lake and a
Oh, sure.
trail all the way around the lake.
Yeah.
I was just curious if you
That's
knew that
probably
one.
near Mike's. That's like Rockville area. There's a
And then,
couple. There's
oh, sorry.
no, there's a lot of good. As little as Rhode Island is, like there's a lot of good outdoor stuff.
It's all
Smaller,
woods.
smaller hike. Yeah,
It's
it's
all
woods.
either
There's no
woods or
mountains.
city. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
What's like a great time with friends to you?
Um,
Like if your wife's like, Josh, you need a good time with the boys, what are you gonna go plan?
I mean, recently it's been disc golf. Like I'll call the guys up and or text them and see who wants to go out. But
So not Tilted Barn.
not Tilted Barn. No,
If I lived in Rhode Island, it'd
no,
be
I'm not.
Tilted
Not
Barn.
really a. What's that?
If I lived in Rhode Island still, it'd be Tilted Barn.
Would it be?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm not really a. I don't know. I really am more of a lone wolf kind of like I mean I can't say I have a ton of friends to like just be like let's go do whatever with besides disc golf and maybe do some riding, some mountain biking, but
Yeah. You're
yeah,
not a social butterfly.
not really. I mean, I got a core people that I love hanging around and riding with and whatever, but um if I had a choice, I'd probably hang out with the fam more so.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
yeah.
your actual family too. I mean, your siblings and parents too are
Yeah,
pretty
actually, that's like
close.
I don't know why I didn't think of that, but yeah, we see each other very often.
Yeah, your family was pretty cool to watch. You guys would do a lot. You do a
Yeah,
lot together, like a lot of having the whole family over at one of their houses.
yeah, yeah.
And then do you have a lake house still? The family?
Yes, my parents do. We haven't been. I mean, through the summer, yeah, we're up there. I would say pretty consistently.
That's a bunch of
Um,
fun stuff to do up there.
yeah, fishing, canoeing.
Yeah.
There's a jet ski up there now. So
Ooh,
more
nice.
motors. Yeah, super fun.
That's fun. Tell us about how you met your wife.
Yeah, so we actually met in Costa Rica when I was a guide there. She was a student actually on one of the trips. It
What was
was
that
a
program? Outward
do you
Bound, you
not
said?
Outward Bound, yeah. I don't know if you know. You don't know the story at all?
Not really. I
No.
might have heard it a long time ago, but now I can't remember any of it.
Yeah. So she was one of like 14 college girls that came down on a different spring break, like a alternative spring break. And
What was Outward Bound? What were they doing?
so we did hiking, whitewater rafting, surfing, a little bit of rock climbing, like rappelling, that kind of stuff. Just different excursions through Costa Rica. So
Is that
yeah,
all it was, or is there a faith aspect to that? I didn't know. I can't
no,
remember.
Outward Bound is not.
It's like getting people
In
outdoors.
yeah, in general, like it's kind of to help like troubled youth type stuff. But the one that I was working with, it was kind of just it was more so privileged kids from the U.S. to come down and enjoy
Just single
Costa
girls
Rica.
that needed to find a cute guide.
Exactly,
And
exactly that.
so you were stoked.
But yeah, oh for sure. It was
14
good.
college girls. I have to be their guide. Oh, that's rough. You're like in your mid 20s.
Yep. Yeah, it worked out well. So we met through that, and then started talking afterwards. And then I ended up coming back. My visa was for 6 months. It was a tourist visa, so I had to go back to the States. So I went and visited her during that time, and then went back for 6 months, and then so I was there for a year and change. And then she was going to grad school in upstate New York, and I got a job at a climbing gym, rock climbing gym up in upstate New York, like just north of Troy or Albany. And then we got engaged, married, ended up moving back to Rhode Island. So
Oh, you got engaged? I mean, you got married in New York?
Yes, we were like in transition back to, once we got married, we then moved to Rhode Island.
Okay.
But yeah.
What was that experience like, being a year in Costa Rica? Like, for you, like, what are some of the things you think about now or remember the best? Like, what are the best things about it to you?
Yeah.
Besides
So
meeting your wife, besides you
yeah.
got a wife out of
Yeah.
it.
So, I mean, going to Costa Rica was actually part of my kind of faith journey, I would say, in that I was originally, before that, I was actually living in Brazil, working with a ministry down there, working with street kids, like in the favelas, and just, just
How long,
helping
how long was that?
families. That was another year or so
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
prior to that.
I didn't know
Yeah,
you did that for a year in Brazil.
yeah. That was with Youth with a Mission, YWAM. I don't know if
Yeah.
you're familiar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I had left actually college, because I didn't know what I really wanted to do with my life, and had known these people down there that were working or doing this ministry. And so I was like, I don't want to do what I'm studying right now. So I'm going to just take some time, figure it out.
Yeah.
Went to Brazil, really like
Great
figured.
advice. Great advice for our young ones that are approaching college age.
Yeah. Oh, for
Like, do
sure.
that. I think it's great that you did that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would say I would say my parents, or my dad would be, maybe not now, but I think at the time, going 3 years into college and then saying I'm going to stop was probably a little frustrating, I would say. But
Did you
they were
stop
super
altogether and
gracious.
you stop altogether and never finish?
Never finished. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so they were super gracious about like kind of letting the process be. And yeah, so I went down there, kind of fell in love with working with youth and kids, and then the outdoors. So like I like tried to formulate trips, hiking trips and stuff like that with them. Um, and then from that experience, I decided that I wanted to be more trained in the outdoor aspect, as far as like hard skills, like technical ropes and whitewater rafting and water rescue, that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
lifeguarding, those skills. And from that, found this Outward Bound program that was a training program to start, and then I came on board with them as an instructor. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So yeah, back to a year. Now we got Brazil and Costa Rica. How do you think those 2 years living in another country affected you altogether? Like, what are things you
Yeah.
carry?
So
What are things you carry with you now because of that
yeah.
experience?
Well, I think one of your original questions was like, what do I miss or what did I learn? But I think what I was originally going back to is that living in Costa Rica with like a $25 a day stipend, like room and board paid for, and I had $25 every day to my name, which is nothing. The simpleness of that life is, when reflect on like owning a business now. It's like, how did this happen? Like
Yeah.
going from having absolutely nothing to going into debt, but also running a business. And, it's a very extreme as far as responsibility in the money world. It's completely different, but
Yeah.
yeah, I do envy my self from those days, but
Yeah.
sometimes,
Miss the simplicity
yeah,
and surviving on
for
very
sure.
little,
Yeah,
but enjoying life to the fullest. Like you were probably having the best time ever.
oh yeah, and I always there's a line from The Office. I don't know if you're an Office fan, but
Oh yeah.
it's Andy. I think he says something to like know that you're in the good old days when you're in the good old days.
Mm,
And that's where we are at all these times. But you always think back to them, and you're like, I wish I was in those good old days, but I'm already in them. So
yeah.
it's just different. That's all.
Yeah. Different good old days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
That's
still,
that's crazy that kind of wisdom came out of The Office
yeah,
from Andy.
yeah, right,
That's actually really a cool thought. It's like, because any of us hearing that, we're thinking like, what are the times that we think of like as the good old days? And
right,
I have a couple that come to mind for me, and it's like, yet, you know, 15, 20 years now, I'm gonna look back when I had these little kids running around in my house, and I'll be like, those are
right,
the good old days. And it's
right.
like hard to, my wife and I talk about this all the time. It's hard to savor the moment
Yeah,
because life is very, fast paced and very distracted. The real thing is that it's distracted. That's our biggest hang up to like savoring life now. I
sure.
think in our modern world is the distractions of technology and social media and how
Yeah,
busy we allow ourselves to be.
yeah,
So um I think that's what makes it so hard to savor the moment.
yeah,
But in the old days of childhood and like even like in our teens, I think there was times where you were watching the clock. It's like I haven't been that bored in like decades.
yeah.
Like
Oh yeah,
my life is too fast paced. Like I'm never watching a clock. Like,
right.
and thank God I'm actually enjoying most of my life so that I'm not actually that bored. But
Yeah,
sometimes I wish I was that bored again so I could have some thoughts to
right,
myself.
right.
It's
Oh, absolutely.
interesting how
I've
phases of life change.
Yeah, I'm not a huge reader, and my wife can attest to that because she reads all the time. And I will listen to audiobooks, but we're doing this thing for this study and I was just reading The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. I don't
Oh
know if
yeah.
you've read that.
Yeah, I've started it.
And that like, yeah, that's
John
very
Mark
much,
Comer.
yeah, very
Yeah.
much to the point of just like all this stuff like Zoom and whatnot is just a distraction to enjoying pure life, with
Yeah.
your kids, with your wife. So
Yeah. So back to before we go into the business and onto staying on the outdoors a little bit, you and I have a little story to tell where we um so for all of you, any of you listening, Josh and his brother Tyler are perfect human specimens. They have muscles and not much body fat. It's kind of the opposite of me where it's like more body fat, less muscle. But and my brother-in-law Justin, we there was talk of some sort of a mountain hike going on, and I'm like, there's no mountains in Rhode Island. They're like, we'll go up to New Hampshire, there's Mount Washington. And I mean, side note, it's like a 6,000-foot hill. They call it a mountain in New England because they really literally have no mountains, so they call hills mountains out there. But anyways, this did have elevation change. You had to go up like 2,000 feet probably to get to the top. And we go there, and I'm like the most out of shape. Those two guys run, like we'll get into that a little bit. They were at the time they're doing like Spartan races and Tough Mudders and crap like that. And I'm like, I was not exercising at the time, except for footy on the pitch. But and Justin was in shape. He was working out and everything. So we approached this mountain with snowshoes. I'm borrowing snowshoes. I brought an extra pair of boots because I didn't know which ones were going to be better. and 3 feet of snow. That was a crazy hike. So we hiked
It
like
really was.
8 or 9 a.m. till like noon, and then had our GREs or whatever Justin's military lunches were.
Yeah.
Mine was fajitas out of an
Yeah.
envelope. That was gnarly. But yeah, in the first hour, I don't know how Josh and Tyler tell the story, but like in the first hour, I was dying. Like I couldn't, my glutes and my calves started burning, and it turned out to be because of my boots were not, my heels were pulling up
Nice.
with the snowshoes, which was not good. So it's putting all this extra pressure on certain muscles, and it was just burning, and I was burning out really quick, and I could not keep moving. And they were all really encouraging because they're all in good shape. And then I switched boots after about an hour, and I caught my wind, and I started making my strides back up. It's all uphill, like you're going up steps. And all of a sudden I started feeling normal, and I was able to keep my feet going. They're like, "You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good now." So there's something about the boots and just breaking my body calibrating to that elevation, coldness, and the snowshoe
I thought it was a
walking.
hill. There's no elevation, Travis.
There was a hill. We saw the elevation change. I remember there was like markers.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
went up at least like 1,500 feet, I think, straight up, like we were going upstairs the
Yeah.
whole time. And then on the way down, we
Yeah.
basically got to or ski on our snowshoes.
Yeah. That was definitely, I don't know how you remember all these memories of this, like fine details of these things, but that I do recall, like that was probably my favorite thing, just like gliding down the mountain. Like it was, we weren't running, we were just like going into snow
Yeah, you take
puffs.
a
Like,
step and it just slides like 7 feet down.
oh yeah,
It was
yeah,
super cool.
super fun. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, that story to me, like I was kind of I would say I was an add-on to the thing, because you and Tyler and Justin were, I would say, the masterminds of trying to, like, just wanting to do it. And I had just come actually back from Costa Rica, and so I had these skills or whatever that I thought were applicable or whatever. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna keep these idiots safe out there on the
Keep us
mountain.
alive.
Yeah. And the only thing I remember is Justin having like probably an 80-pound pack on his back, full of, I have no idea what, but
Yeah.
ropes and ice picks, like
Yeah, we
I
don't
don't
know
know,
what he had in there.
everything.
But by the
And we
time we got
finally
to the
get to,
top.
yeah, well, we didn't even get to the top. That's the
Yeah.
other thing. Like you make this whole big grand story, but we didn't even get to the top.
Yeah, I
But
forgot.
we get up to, probably, it was probably like, I would say halfway maybe of total elevation, I would say. And then
I'd call it 3/4.
yeah.
You could see it.
Okay.
It was right over there.
Okay.
We could see it.
Sure. 3/4.
But then it got 4
But
feet deep right there.
yeah, and he starts thinking into like every tree well that's out there, and I'm like, he's gonna die, and he's gonna just sink in and just go into some cliff somewhere and just die, and we're
Yeah.
not gonna be able to get him out. And so I think I was the one that was like, I really think we should turn back. Like this is not a good idea.
And Tyler
And
was like, "No,
thankfully
we
we
need to
did.
summit."
Yeah, I know. But thankfully we did, because it started snowing and like weather started rolling in, and
Yeah, and wind up there. That was gnarly.
oh yeah. Well, they just recorded, I don't know if you saw that. They just recorded the coldest temperature, I think, in the northern hemisphere. It was like negative 120 degrees.
Where?
Yeah.
On Mount
On
Washington?
Mount Washington. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's
You can
crazy.
look it up. I don't know the exacts, but they were toting it as like the coldest ever. And they have the highest wind speed. Like you say it's just a hill, but like there have been a lot of people that died up on Mount Washington. So
Really?
yeah. Oh yeah.
I got more respect for it now. It's
Yeah. You
taken
should.
many, many lives. So yeah, that was one of our crazy stories. The three guys in shape taking the guy out of shape up a mountain, up a snow mountain. But it
It
did
was a
feel
good time.
good. It did feel good once I got over the initial like body resistance that I did it. The rest of it was not complaining. I was having a good time. So
Yeah.
that was cool.
Yeah.
I think your body has to acclimate if you're out of shape. You got to kind of go, "Hey body, we're doing something really crazy right now. Get with it."
Yep. Yeah. And my
So,
brother and
oh, yeah.
Tyler's he's the one that will just go out and do like crazy stuff, stupid stuff, where he's getting in shape as he goes. Like he just goes and starts running. He's like, okay, I'm gonna by mile 100, I'll be in shape. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, you have it too, but he definitely has an insane amount of like mental fortitude to do all these like physical feats of like
yeah. I think that
mar-
came from wrestling. I think that was part of
marathon
it.
type stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. He's a good wrestler, right? State.
yeah. But yeah. But no, I'm just saying the mental fortitude
Yeah.
of like cutting weight, and I think that's where a lot of it came from with us. But
Yeah. And you did
yeah,
too, right?
I did.
You
Yeah,
wrestled. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. We got a lot of things in common. So I was a wrestler too, but
yeah.
I was no Mason type wrestler. I was more like the guy who wouldn't cut weight and the guy who, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I'm still in counseling about it. But anyways, so let's talk about your business. So just tell the story like no one knows. Obviously, I mean, I know some, but I don't know much. So like when did it start? How did you start it? Where'd you get the idea? That kind of stuff.
Sure.
Well, first of all, what is it?
Uh,
Because we haven't even said it
yeah.
yet.
So we run a small or a bike shop here in town. It's actually, believe it or not, it's a toy store and a bike shop, and now added disc golf. But the shop has been there for 75 years, I think it is, or more. It could be more than that. I think I want to say 75 this year or last year. But we took over from the previous owner in 2019. And kind of how it came about. I mean, we had all, so if you ever buy a bike in as a kid, I would say in Westerly or in this area, like you go to Ray Willis. That's what it was named previous, and
So
like
it
we
was a
grew up.
fixture in the community.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I don't know if nobody knows this beyond. You may know this from living in Rhode Island, but when you give directions in Rhode Island, you refer to old landmarks.
Hmm.
So like where the old whatever was, like the old Benny's. I don't know if you remember Benny's, but Benny's is no longer, and so you take a left at the old Benny's, and
Yeah.
that's how you give directions. Um, but we are the old Ray Willis, like as much as you can call us Remy Cycle or Teddy's Toys. Um, we are the old Ray Willis, and we will forever be called that until 2 generations pass. So,
Yeah.
which is fine, but yeah, 2019 we took over. We had again grown up
Perfect timing right
getting
before
buying
COVID.
bikes. What's that?
Perfect timing right before COVID.
Yeah. I would say so. I would actually say so.
Well, that's part of the story is like that would sound bad, but with bikes, it ended up being a good thing, right?
Yeah. A good thing and
Yeah.
a bad thing. It was a mix.
But let's go to like how you started it. Like what happened? Like how did that happen?
Yeah. So again, we knew the guy. We knew John. Growing up, my dad had done business with him and whatnot through the years. Just always good friends. He was always a very personable guy. Like would chat with whoever you can chat with, and as my dad is as well. Like they can talk to whoever, whenever. So I think it took about 2 years to kind of formulate the whole thing, the whole deal. I was actually working with Tyler doing solar. I was I was doing sales with them, and I think my dad went in just like chatting with him for whatever, and John had said he's like, hey, I'm kind of looking to retire. Like, do any of the boys or anyone, would you be interested, or whoever interested in taking
Hmm.
over? And he's like, I don't know. Like, I can present it to everybody and like see who might be interested. It's been a fixture, so it'd be a really cool adventure to get into. Yeah, so I was again working with my brother and behind the computer. Not really. I mean, I'm as much as the kind of lone. I'm not a lone wolf. I don't know why I even said that, but like I mean, I enjoy people. I love like just chatting with everybody, getting to know people, who they are, where they're coming from, that kind of thing. And I wasn't doing that. I didn't feel like fulfilled with being behind a computer, and um, I would do site visits and stuff like that with people, and I love those interactions for the solar on the solar side, but it just wasn't enough, I think, for my social needs, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
You're a little more extroverted than that.
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so yeah, so I was like, could be something that this I'm interested in this. Like I had biked, I knew how to do some mechanic stuff, like nothing crazy, but
So how did you end up doing it financially? And we don't need like a ton of detail, but just kind of a main
yeah.
category of like how it was done.
So I mean, honestly, the credit union and through town, like that
Uh-huh.
was a huge thing. They We went to two different banks and kind of like talked through. So it was actually with my parents and myself and Megan, my wife, and
You show them a business
so
plan. Is that how you do it?
we did, but they kind of ran off of previous years from the previous owner. So
Oh, they kind of
it
treated
was
it like an as is business.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was so we ended up buying the building and the business all in one package. And the credit union was able to do the whole package, I guess, without an SBA loan,
Oh, cool.
which apparently complicated the things. I'm not the finance. I don't. I mean, I have to do the day-to-day finance stuff with the
That's
shop,
good.
but
That's good though, because I've heard it's harder later when you're in an SBA loan. So that's probably a good
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, and that's what I had learned through the whole process, is that we kind of want to avoid that. Um, and so they took on the loan. I think the building was obviously a big part of that. So like if everything fails, they can just take the building and whatever. So there's always their risk and our risk and all that fun stuff. But yeah, so it took about 2 years to kind of put that whole package together. The previous owner, John, actually held a note from us as well, or for us as well.
Oh, cool.
Um,
That's called
so he's
in real estate, that's considered a
invested in,
seller carry.
yeah.
Seller
Okay.
carry note. So he's like getting paid over time for
Yeah.
some portion of it.
Yeah. So we have it's like a 5-year agreement with him. So we're coming up on that. So that's kind of nice to be done with that at some point. Um, but yeah, also made him invested in like our success, which he always was. Like he never, like, even if he didn't hold it, like he would have wanted to keep the whole thing going, obviously. So um,
And then how did it
but
go? Like you launched in 2019 right before COVID, and then how was it
yeah.
received?
It actually was received very well. Like again, I go back to we are the old Ray Willis.
Yeah.
People still come in and call us Ray Willis, and again, it's fine. Like as long as they come through the doors and buy toys and bikes from us, that's absolutely fine. Call me whatever you want, I guess. But yeah, so we took over in 2019. Had a normal year considering what he had done, and actually, I think had done better than what he had done the year before, as far as sales and whatnot. And then COVID hit, and it was just absolute mayhem with the bike industry. Um, we, I mean, I remember stories of, I think March. So that was March, I think, when everything shut down. There's like 2 days of us like figuring out if we can actually stay open or not. And they deemed us essential because of commuters, I guess, in the more populated areas, so Providence and whatnot. We had like maybe 4 or 5 commuters in our community of bikers, but but we were allowed to stay open, curbside everything and whatnot. And I remember, like, because we're a coastal town and like people commute or people come into town from New York or Boston or whatever for the summer, all their summer homes, they're hightailing out of the cities to get away from from COVID. And they're calling on the way up. They're like, I need 4 bikes. These are our sizes.
That's
And I need them now.
crazy.
And they're just
Oh
like
my gosh,
calling.
that's crazy.
Oh,
So
it
then
was
what? So it
absolutely,
was great, but
it was
then
nuts.
you ran out of supply really fast and
Yeah.
couldn't
So
get more.
Yeah, so quickly, I think so. We and what was tough was that we had no idea if we were gonna just be shut down or
Yeah,
whatever. So I was like,
that's crazy.
I was ordering stuff, ordering new bikes conservatively still because I really had no idea how everything was going to go because I didn't want to be sitting on 200 brand new bikes that I couldn't sell. Um, and obviously looking back, I was like, why didn't I buy 1,000 bikes? And I could have, or I should have. Um, but um, but yeah, I mean, we basically sold through all of our bikes. Giant, our main distributor, they ran out of bikes in July of that year. Like you couldn't get one. That summer we were I was going on Craigslist like buying bikes secondhand just to
Yep.
fix them up and try and sell them. We had like 12 bikes on the floor and there was nothing.
Yeah.
And so like we did have a lot of repairs though. So that was also the blessing of 2020 was of COVID was like people needed to get out on their bikes. So they're pulling their bikes out of barns and garages and wherever they could find them and getting them fixed up. And I remember like looking, so the store is split up. Left side toys, right side is bikes. And we had like a triage of bikes in the toy side. Like there were just all down the aisles. There's bikes everywhere, and just to fix them up. And it was because no one could come in, so we were just like, who cares how everything looks? Like we just need to get these bikes in and out as fast as possible. And then from bikes then running out, all the parts started running out. So we had a really hard time sourcing parts just to fix stuff
Wow.
through the end of 2020 and into 2021.
Did it
And
start to normalize in 21?
no,
Stayed crazy?
no, stayed crazy, not in a good way. Um, like all the factories still in so Giant is in Taiwan. All their small parts are in China, in all these other like Philippines and Cambodia and whatnot. And so China specifically was shut down more so than anyone else. And so their factories were not producing anything, so they couldn't then build the bikes
Yeah.
and or us get those parts. So through 2021, 22, it's like I think finally this spring has started to normalize as far as inventory and
Wow, what a crazy
uh,
journey.
yeah.
That is
So it's
crazy.
like it was ups and downs. Like obviously 2020 was great, and then 2021 was terrible. Not terrible in like a
Supply chain issues.
supply chain. Like we were I
Yeah.
mean, everybody talks about this, but we had to source things from all over the place. And there's a point where we didn't have tubes, just tubes to repair flat tires. And I remember, I think it was that summer of 2020, my brother was up vacationing somewhere and he stopped in like an REI or whatever. And he's like, hey, they have 26-inch tubes here. Like, do you need any? And I was like, yeah, buy like 30 of them. I just need them.
Yeah.
So it
Crazy
was just,
times.
yeah, super crazy.
That's
But
cool.
yeah,
Has it financially through all that, did you guys stay afloat and stay, going and growing sort of thing, or just kind of sustaining or barely
yeah,
sustaining?
so we have four, I would say four core. We do have four core people. Myself, two mechanics, and then Britta, who's in like kind of does the toy inventory and she does a lot of design stuff and whatnot for the store. We for sure like through 2020 and 2022 can for sure sustain four people, but it's normalizing, and so we're trying to figure out and like have to lay some people off this winter. And which is they like for me is like very hard because you have, I mean, it's their livelihood, like, and so I have not just my family, but four other people or three other people that are relying on the success of this place.
Yeah.
And So it's like through right now, March is always the worst as far as you have to prep, you have to start bringing in inventory, paying out all this money that you don't have, and and then
Yeah.
hope that spring comes sooner than later. So
I feel like
and
March
it's
is also the month I would get depressed there. Like it's the most, like
oh
it's
yeah,
where you feel like winter needs to go away.
yeah.
And it's
And this
still
winter,
cold and dark.
yeah, this winter specifically, like January was super mild. Like we didn't have a winter. It felt like we didn't have a winter. Mild meeting like 50-degree days. Like
Yeah.
that's mild for here. And then recently, where we think that it's gonna start coming, it is officially spring, but like today was 40 degrees out and super windy, and nobody rides their bike in that kind of weather. Not the
Yeah.
normal riders, but um, so it just hasn't arrived yet. So
So switching topics a little bit, I wanted to ask you, as a husband and father, a couple questions, and then we're gonna land the plane on the spiritual and faith aspect. But what do you think has been the biggest challenge as a husband? You're approaching a decade. What's been the biggest challenge? How has it, changed you, or what's the biggest learning curve you've had to deal with, and what have you learned, sort of thing?
oh man, um, I
Just
think the hardest. I
pick out
mean,
what stands out the
everybody
most.
knows that. Yeah, biggest thing is communication. I mean, it's just not assuming that you know exactly what she's thinking, what Megan's thinking, and because we are completely different people, and not completely different, but different, and being humble enough to say you're an idiot, and recognize that you can be better at certain things, but and yeah, I think recently I've been, because since you've sent this whole thing, I've kind of been reflecting on it more, because sometimes you just get into these ruts where you just kind of go through life, and you just run with it, and day to day, and it goes to the next day and next day and next day. And but I think I really think it has to, for sure, just all about humbleness, just being humble enough to say that you're wrong, and um even when sometimes you might not be wrong, but um and yeah, I
My
think
wife, my wife and I, one thing we've learned is that one of our we're very different. We're very different in a lot of ways. I'm like calm and even keel. She's high anxiety and quick to get upset, easily upset, um and I can be almost comatose. Like I don't realize something's wrong. Like that's where it's
yeah,
bad for me. I'm like
yep,
too passive and too what's the word? Aloof, maybe even on what's going
sure,
on. But one thing that's been our saving grace has been having things in common. Like we really like to do the same things. We like to go get sushi. We like to go to art show or an art gallery. We like to go on a hike. We want to go camping. We want to adventure. Those are things we have in common.
yeah,
Music and art are big ones for us, and outdoors has become a big one because my wife got way more into it, which is really cool.
yeah.
What do you guys have some good things in common, and have you found that to be kind of like a good glue in the marriage?
Oh, for sure. um well, so I mean, there are things where she loves going for walks, reading, lots of reading, going to the gym, things that I have already said that I don't like. I'm not a reader. I don't. I mean, I will go to the gym, but I'm not gonna go and work out and whatnot. But there are things where, like activities and things that she loves, that I have um, been absorbed into, because I want to, do things with her.
Mhm.
I may not some days like not want to go to the gym, but we go as a family and do it because
Uh-huh.
we love each other and we want to hang out and like be part of each other's lives. On the other spectrum of that, like I may be a little bit more extreme with like sports and mountain biking and surfing and stuff like that, but I've kind of like brought her into those things as well, and especially I think it's been easier for her to like get into those things because we have to take them a little bit slower with the kids, and like it's not just me, and that's a learning thing for me is like you can't just throw her at some crazy trail and say, okay, let's do this, because it's going to be miserable by the end of the end of the
Yeah.
time. Um,
Mhm.
and so it's like it's
I'm hearing the concept of like adapting to each other.
yeah, yeah, and it's creating balance like between things that I love, things that she loves, and and not necessarily like absolutely loving those activities, but like loving it because we get to hang out with each other. So
Yeah, loving doing it together.
yeah, yep. We've been doing a lot of camping too, like bought a pop-up through COVID, and doing a lot of camping in that aspect. And
That's awesome.
this trip out in out west, we're shipping all of our tent stuff out. So we're going to be doing some tenting, and which is pushing her limits. I think it's also going to be pushing my limits because camping with two kids, and uh it's it's going to be
Oh
challenging.
yeah. Oh, it's different than camping
Yeah.
with just adults.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
My last first and last camping trip so far with Thrice was like 2.5, 3 years ago. We go to this campground in the Sierra Nevadas, and I'm so excited because we barely have tapped into the Sierra Nevadas while we lived there 9 years. We've been there, been
Sure.
into them, like we've barely been into them only twice for camping. And one of them, this second, both times were fails. Both times we camped in the Sierras were fails. One was because of extreme cold. It got down to 20 degrees and our gear totally failed us. We weren't
Yeah.
prepared. We weren't prepared for that cold. This second trip was this one, and we went to this campground called Fish Creek, which I do not recommend to anyone unless you're a dirt bike a-hole, which is
Nice.
what they all were. Like, we're a family that went camping and we didn't realize we are in a dirt bike camp, and people are showing up at 1 a.m. slamming doors like 50 times, and their
Nice.
headlights on the wall of our tent. Right, Thrice wakes up and he's standing in the middle of the tent looking at this glowing wall, like, where am I? Because it's so loud and there's lights on our tent at 1 a.m. And then he
Yeah.
wouldn't go back to sleep for like an hour and a half. So I'm like, I'm not camping with people this young. This is not fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was our that was our two experiences in the Sierras, and that was
Yeah.
camping with little children is tough. I know people that really get into it, they get over that and they work it out with the little ones, how they figure it
Yeah.
out. But for us, it was like when they wake up in the middle of the night and won't go back to sleep in a tent,
No,
it's not
that's
easy.
no good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of screaming from the tent.
You
We
just need
we
lots of
have built in.
melatonin, I think.
Yeah.
More melatonin.
We have built in some like fail safes for that. Just, I mean, I will admit, I will indulge in the bougie like coffee shops and a nice Airbnb for sure. And so I can't believe I said that out loud, because if she hears that, then she knows she's got me. But
Yeah.
I want to do the like the roughing in the tent, in the do that type of stuff. But 3 days, we're tenting for 3-4 days, and then we're gonna have an Airbnb for a couple days. And I mean, I'll be honest, like I'm looking forward to that. Like it's
Yeah.
after 4 days, like tenting it, you don't want to. You want to be able to sleep in a bed,
Well,
but
it's just different with the kids, man.
yeah,
I'd way more want to camp with like my friends
yeah,
than camping
yeah,
with, I want to camp with my little kids, but it's not gonna be easy.
yeah,
It's just tough.
yeah. And that has been so talking about all these things and all these activities that I love doing, like fly fishing and spear fishing and all this kind of stuff. Like you can't do them. Some things you cannot do with kids, and others you want to, like, as soon as they're able, like, I want to get them doing these things.
Yeah.
But to go out fly fishing with Teddy at 2.5, like, I'd be terrified he's going to drown instead of me trying to catch a fish. Like,
Oh
the
yeah.
stress of
Too
thinking that
young.
he's going to die versus me catching a fish it's not worth it. So, um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, as far as having kids now, you got a 6.5, you said?
yeah.
Remy is?
Remy's 6.5. Yeah,
And then Teddy's 2.5.
yeah.
What what has it done to you? Like bring out that best father thought you got from them now. What has it been like being their father now for these years?
Yeah. I mean,
What has it done to you, and what's like, what does it kind of bring to mind when you think of that, being a father to them?
I think, I mean, I'm just thinking of like we were not planning to have Remy. Like, he was a joyful surprise. Um,
He's an early
and
bird special.
yeah, yeah, that's it. Um, and like when I mean, I wasn't even in the mindset of having kids. Like we had nephews, nieces, whatever, and like the amount of, I think, just like my heart, it was no longer in my chest. Like, it was in Remy. Like, it was, I couldn't, um I don't know, it's really hard to explain. Just like how much love you have for your kids is like, it's crazy. And then like, now he's 6 years old and acts like a teenager, and you're like, how do you balance the, like, how much you love this kid and then how much he might not like you some days or whatever. But um I
Yeah.
don't know, it's tough, but it's like, it's amazing at the same time.
Yeah.
um and that's,
Parenting's like the hardest thing and the greatest thing at the same time.
yeah, yeah. And I have, there's actually one of the guys from the shop. He always says like, "Oh, I'm never gonna have kids and whatever," and he hears stories of me and the kids, and um, it's just like, it's hard to explain and not like complain about it, because we always like, prone to complaining, right,
Hmm.
and not being joyful about the things that we have, but so I think he hears the stories that are not always the best, and not reflective of what true parenting is, but um, which, got to work on
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
What do you think is the most important attribute of being a good father
Uh,
that you either are working on or yeah, probably that you aspire to?
yeah. I mean, I think it is. I think it's being slow to speak, slow to anger. I mean, that's the biggest thing, for me. I think, just like, I mean, everybody knows how kids are. Like, when they want something, they want it, and they want it now. And
Yeah.
to not react to that is like humanly impossible. Like, I don't know how, as much as very patient I think that I am, like, my mind is saying like, I'm gonna strangle this kid, but but I don't, obviously. And
Yeah.
um so I think it's like, it really is like being slow to speak, slow to anger. um yeah,
That's good. That's good. Yeah. I want to be like that too. And I'm not like that. I'm very snappy
yeah,
when both of them are whining at me. I get like,
yeah, yeah.
what are you talking about? I gotta try to talk. I have a whole nother voice like friends and family don't even know about. It's
Nice.
like, you guys are insane. What are you doing right now? You're all
Yeah,
asking me for snacks and stuff. And it's like, you just had 3 snacks.
yeah.
And then you're whining
And it's
about it.
like, you coming home from like today, like, I'll reflect on today. Like, I had a terrible day at work, just because of how the season is and how it's not starting and all that kind of stuff. But you come home and you don't want to have that transfer to your home life. Like, you want to be able to just walk through the doors and have it all fully reset, but there's always this residual whatever that you're still dealing with. But and they have no idea. They don't care. They're, Remy's playing Legos in the back room, and
Yeah.
they're throwing things at each other, and you're like,
They're like, I'm
they
a
don't-
kid, Dad, get over it. Like,
yeah,
play Legos with
exactly,
me.
exactly.
I don't need to think about your job, Dad. I just need to
Yeah.
play Legos right now.
Which I would say that's my art outlet is building Legos
Oh
nowadays. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
big in my family.
Yep.
Random question. How do you feel about puzzles?
Love puzzles.
You do?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, you're a weird one like my wife.
Yeah.
So my
I
wife
mean,
loves
we don't.
puzzles. I hate puzzles. I feel like they're
Yeah.
work. I feel like they're work with no reward.
No,
And
it's
and the craziest thing is she'll do a puzzle, like a 1,000-piece puzzle. And I'm like, wow, you completed it. That is amazing. Now is when I start to enjoy it, that it's completed. And then
yeah.
she wrecks it and throws it back in the
Rips
box. And I'm like,
apart.
are you serious? You just
Yeah.
spent 2 days on that, 3 days on
Yeah.
that on your spare time.
That is one of those activities where you're in it and you're not thinking of anything else, because
It turns
your
out to
mind's
be
just so
somewhat
focused on.
therapeutic for her, which is kind of an interesting thing. I never thought about
Oh yeah.
that with puzzles.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was just a random question about like Legos and stuff you do with the kids too.
Yeah.
But last topic here, and then we're gonna be out of time. How I don't want your whole spiritual backstory. Like, I don't want to take the time for all of that. I know your family generally has like kind of an even keel Christian faith as far as I've known you guys. But what would you say would be maybe your more recent spiritual trajectory? Like, what has there been any ups or downs, or any great growth, or any, having a family maybe did something, I don't know, like anything like that. And kind of along with that, but it might be two different topics, is like, what's been your most life-giving expression of church or community, Christian community?
Sure.
So yeah, like what's
Uh,
kind of fresh in your spiritual journey, and then what's the best spiritual community you've ever been a part of?
sure. I would say recently, uh, so I know you said you don't want to go to the background, but
No, I do.
I
I do
grew
if
up with,
it's relevant to like something, but I don't want to
yeah,
go through the whole thing time wise.
sure. Yeah. So I mean, the family grew up in a pretty, I would say, conservative, not non-Pentecostal, church setting, and, went to Brazil as part of, YWAM, and
Oh yeah.
completely, I would say completely opposite of
As
what we,
charismatic as you can get.
yeah, but yeah. And I think so then, coming from these experiences of very conservative versus not, and then walking really into, having a family and creating our own, atmosphere of, I don't know if that's the right word to say, right way to say
Yeah.
it, but
Your own family culture. of
atmosphere
faith.
is faith and like our culture in our family. Recently, it's been like diving back into those things of the, Holy Spirit, gifts, and, what that means, and reflecting on my personal experiences with those things,
Mhm.
and figuring that out in my own walk, I would say. And yeah, I think that's recently has been the my internal reflection of where I'm at, I guess, now,
It's like,
is like,
how are we gonna lead our family spiritually?
yeah,
What kind of
yeah,
environment we're gonna create?
yeah. But more so, I would say less of the family, because it starts with yourself, and like, um, really honing in on what I think God is, how he speaks, how he, um, directs your life, and then relaying that obviously to the kids and teaching them. But um, yeah, I would say that's been recent. But and then as far as community, or like, what was the other question? I'm sorry.
Like, what's an expression of Christian community that you've experienced that was very
Sure.
life-giving?
Yeah. So, we're our church. We have community groups, like just smaller, more geographically based groups, and those have, we have them on Tuesday nights. But like all the families get together. My brother's part of that, and that having people around us locally
Is
that
that Generation is called?
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to
Yeah.
Stephen Mook. Shout out to Andrew Mook, all the Sanctuary crew. Shout out to the Renaissance crew.
There you go.
Those are
All the
all
hashtags,
my homies.
all the hashtags. Yeah. Um, but yeah, being part of that group has been very much life-giving for sure. We went through
That's
a
awesome.
very hard time, I would say, with postpartum with Teddy.
Hmm.
And there were days where, I had no idea what the ending of that day was going to bring. So, um,
You mean like
to be able to,
physically, or like your wife was feeling depressed from postpartum
yeah,
depression?
yeah,
Yeah.
that, yeah. Not to go into like the full details of that, but like really, really dark days, really hard days. And to have people to be able to call and say, I'm at work, but can you go check on people for me?
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and them to be like, absolutely. And like within minutes, be able to roll over and check on the family and whatever. So,
That's awesome.
um, and like pray with the family and all that. So,
Yeah.
um, huge during that time. And, like I was actually reflecting on that like a couple weeks ago, and like in tears, like just like thinking through what our life could have been like if they weren't around. So
Hmm.
yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah,
That's what you like hope and want it to be, and it's not always
yeah,
there. It's not always like that, even if we're a part of some churches or communities.
yeah,
But that's when it's firing on all cylinders. It's like you can call on
yeah,
each other for help
yeah, man.
and care.
Yeah, and it's been interesting too because like not everybody is coming from the same church now. So like kind of people are going elsewhere and whatnot, um and to see that has been even more so like really cool, that it doesn't matter if you're going to X church or whatever, to be able to still come together in Christ's name.
Hmm.
um that's all it is. That's pretty simple, but you throw in all these other hashtags and names of churches and whatnot, it doesn't, in the end it doesn't matter what your name is. But so
Yeah.
yeah.
Jesus didn't found 400,000 brands of church. He
Yeah,
founded one church.
exactly. Exactly.
There's only
um
one brand, really.
yeah, yeah. And that's,
Yeah.
that's what, so many people don't like the church because of that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Last aspect here, or last question here. What is your hope for the future of how you can do the things you love and even do them more while working and raising a family?
Mhm. uh
Is there a
I
way you
mean,
can see? Is there a way you could see? Do you feel like you're already doing it in a healthy way for yourself, or do you foresee like wanting to integrate more things together with yourself and your family? I don't mean
I
doing
think,
it together. I just mean like
yeah,
keeping all of the things you want to be doing and need in balance with your work and family.
yeah. um I think it really, going back to just being mindful, or having more mindfulness in everything that I do, um which when I'm tired is super hard to do. Like when you're done with a long day at work, or might not even be long, but like just a stressful day, and you have to come home and be mindful with your kids or with your wife, like, and being in the moment and present, off my phone, which I'm miserable at a lot. But yeah, I would say that would be the biggest thing that I could do to make life more fulfilled and enjoyable. Yeah, I don't know if that.
Cool. Yeah, just being.
Yeah.
You're saying your hope is that you can be fully present with your family when you're not working and everything.
Yeah, and even fully present when I'm at work, like,
Yeah.
and being able to like mindfully make changes, and specifically make changes that I believe are going to grow the business, and not make it stressful, because that's, if you're specific and like you go for certain things, and if it fails, then that's fine, but if it goes and it continues to grow, then that's what makes the ups and downs of seasonal things and economic things and whatever, all the things that people say is going to bring the world down.
Yeah.
It even kills it, it makes it not stressful, because you can yeah, you can deal with it. So,
Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for being on here. It's been a really great conversation. I really
yeah, man.
appreciate you. And do you want to be found at all? I mean, obviously they can look up your
Yep.
your bike, Remy's Cycle website, right?
Yep. Remy Cycle.
You ship all over the country?
We don't. So that's another thing. Super archaic. We have just gotten onto like having a online website and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, you don't really need it in
like
Westerly.
buying stuff in online. But
You're not really
yeah,
on
you can
social
find me
media, are you?
Instagram. Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, all that fun stuff. At
Okay.
Joshua Mason 401.
There you
Hashtag whatever.
go. Hashtag whatever. Cool, man. Well, thanks so
Yeah,
much.
of course. Good to see you, man.
You too. Peace
Yeah.
out.